Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monster's Den. Joining us today on this new film review episode, we've got returning after a few week break, Mr. Rich Catino,
Hello, guys. Hello, hello.
Dan Mailer from up in Canada. We've
Hello.
got Craig Kaminski from the glorious state of Pennsylvania, and Jamie Laszlo, who's sending some bad weather our way, it appears, right?
It's like 57 today.
Really? Oh, so wait,
Yeah. So if you want that, I'll send it. I'll blow.
Yeah,
I
I'll take
figured
it. I'll
all
take
that
it.
stormy weather because it's actually snowing out
Yeah.
here in New York right now. Rich, you
Uh,
getting that down in New Jersey?
A lot of rain.
A lot of rain. Okay,
A
it's like a
whole lot of
mix
rain
here.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of, it's been raining most of the day, but we had some slush in the beginning of the day.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
So we are here to talk about the 2022 film directed by Parker Finn called Smile, which has been in theaters since mid-September. I believe it's now available on streaming platforms and on demand and all that sort of thing. Starring Saucy Bacon. I guess that's how she says her name. Saucy Bacon, who I just found out today is the daughter of Kevin Bacon and
Oh,
Kyra
wow.
Sedgwick. I did not know that.
I was wondering if
Yeah.
she was related.
Yeah, yeah. So go
Man, you
figure.
forget how old Kevin is, and then that's his daughter. Wow.
She's 30. I was like, wow. It's like, holy cow. So we got Jesse Usher is in this as well. Kyle Gallner, Cal Penn, and Rob Morgan. And this film came out Paramount Pictures, Temple Hill Entertainment. So this is, I guess, what you would call a psychological thriller / horror film. It's done really, really well. We're talking about a budget here of 17 million. It is, as of real recently, it has grossed $216 million. So yes, another low budget horror film that is making big bucks out there right now. It's been a good year for horror films, I think, as far as like the box office is concerned. So we're each going to take our turn, kind of talking a little bit about this film, what we liked about it, what we didn't, why you should see it. Spoiler alert, if you have not seen Smile, I'm sure you're going to get lots of spoilers here. So if you haven't watched it and you don't want to know about what happens in it, you may want not to watch the rest of this episode and go check that out and then come back and watch it. But if you have seen it, or maybe you don't care that we're going to give a lot of shit away, strap yourselves in. We're going to go through it now. So, Jamie, why don't you start us off here and give us some thoughts on Smile?
Well, first off, as I was watching this, I was thinking, you know what? I think we're in a really good sweet spot right now for horror movies, the kind that we're getting. I mean, I was thinking in the 80s, you kind of had slasher flicks. In the 90s, you had Scream, and you had I Know What You Did Last Summer, that kind of thing. In the 2000s, found footage, and then you had things like The Grudge and Ring. 2010s come along, and you get a lot of the Conjuring type stuff. But then you start getting this artsy stuff like The Witch, maybe it follows. So right now in the 2020s, I think we have a combination of a lot of that stuff in these movies. And these are smart movies. This is like smart horror. And you got a little bit of slasher in it. You got the creepiness that you would get from The Ring. And you get a lot of the artsiness from something like The Witch. And it's all working. These are young people with new ideas. And so, yeah, I don't know where it's going to go from here, but I hope we stay in this sweet spot for a little while. I think
It's cool, Jamie, real quick.
Yeah.
Before you go on, it's cool that they're all borrowing from all the classics and the legends that we grew up on from the 70s and 80s,
Right.
And they're
right.
bringing
They're
that
putting
to
their
modern
own
horror. They're bringing it
ideas
to
into
modern,
it.
modern horror,
Right. Yeah. And I think it brought Pete back into modern horror, a lot of this, because
Yeah.
he went forever going, screw modern horror. I ain't watching it. And then one day he watched something new. I'm like, huh. Then again. Now
I mean, that's 100% true. In the early 2000s, I was kind of like, or maybe a little bit later than that, probably about 2010 or so. I was kind of like, God, I'm just not enjoying any of these new horror films. And I stopped watching them for like close to 10 years until last couple of years. And now I'm discovering that there's a lot of really good modern horror, maybe not the big blockbusters, but the ones that kind of like fall right below that. There's actually a lot of really good stuff, and they're doing much better with it now. It's not all about shock value, and it's not all about let's release a kind of cutesy PG-13 horror film and make a lot of money, right? So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And some of these are blockbusters. Like this was the #1 movie 2 weeks in a row, I think.
Yeah.
And it got me on the like Barbarian. I saw the poster. I'm like, I'm all in on this. I don't know what it's about, but I'm all in. So I think the chick, Sosie Bacon, I think she carries this movie on her back. I think she's wonderful in it. I'm with her every step of the way. First of all, I fucking love this movie. Love it. I think it's the scariest movie I've seen in years. I want to get that out of the way. I think another thing about her character, though, I love how she looks like an overworked nurse in the beginning, which is kind of ragged, run down. But then she starts looking like a crazy person very slowly. And we know she's not crazy, but she looks like a crazy person in this movie. And she just does that transition very well. I love the score because it's a little disturbing, very industrial sounding. And I don't mean industrial like Nine Inch Nails or Ministry. I mean industrial like machines are cranking and making the music at times. It adds to it. This movie gave me chills more than once, and not even during the scary scenes. Like when she goes in to talk to the inmate who killed a guy to get out of the curse, and she says it's a patient of mine who's cursed. And when he slowly realizes that it's her, I got chills for some reason. I'm like, this thing is pushing my buttons. I don't know what buttons those are, but it's finding it and it's pushing them. The scene, what always gets me in horror movies for some reason? I always go back to The Exorcist when he's listening to the Father Karras is listening to the tape he made of Reagan, and kill the priest. When the characters listen to things on tape, it's always creepy to me. In The Conjuring 3, when they're combining the tapes, I don't know what it is. It's like the past, like they're really focusing on the past now, looking for nuances and things in there that you didn't see the first time. And I'm listening and it's creeping me out. And they do it in this movie, and then they give you a jump scare during it. In The Exorcist, it's a telephone. In this one, it's an actual scary face, and it made me jump out of my seat. It's one of my favorite jump scares in recent memory. What else do I have here? One thing is, when I think the movie is going off track just a bit, I'm like, oh no, don't go that route. Don't go right. It finds its footing very quickly and brings it right back on the rails for me. So right when I think it's about to go, it comes right back on. And I was like, whew, because I was worried. I thought it was all going to be downhill from this point. But nope, it finds its footing again. So yeah, I think it's the best horror movie I've seen in the last 5 years. And I'm ready for sequels. I'm ready for the curse to continue. When they run out of steam with that, bring me the prequels for how it happened, before her, the first time it happened. I'm ready. I love the smile. I love how you don't know. Sometimes you do, but a lot of time you don't know who's about to smile. I mean, it could be this guy. It could be that guy. It could be anyone. It could be this old guy.
Oh, wow.
How you like that to come up to your table to see how your burger is? It could be this. The curse can go all the way to the UK and back. This thing travels over water. It could hit Mr. Catino as he's crowing over freaking Striper.
Dude, that rocks.
It could hit anyone.
Oh my God.
Man.
Jamie, you left me out of that. I know I'm a newbie, but
I'll get you next time.
job well done, though.
That is
That is
wow.
too funny.
Thank
Did-
you for
did anybody
fueling
see
my
this
night.
film
Thank
with
you for
the-
fueling my nightmares now with images of
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my God.
Images of yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Did anybody see this film in the theaters? Rich, you saw this in the theater, didn't you?
I didn't see it in the theater, yeah.
You did.
And it was pretty packed. It was pretty packed too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all saw it on streaming or cable or whatever. Okay, all right. So,
People,
so
people.
yeah, I
there
guess
was
Rich, when it's
time-
your turn, I guess talk a little bit about the theater experience and how people were getting into it
Okay.
in the theaters. So cool.
Yeah.
All right, Craig, what are your thoughts on Smile?
I liked it. I didn't love it, and it was mostly I saw it strangely enough over Thanksgiving night. I have DirecTV, and that whole weekend we had a free preview of all the premium channels, one of which was Epic's channel. So while I was going through the guide to see if there were things that I could DVR, I saw that it said Smile, and I thought, well, that can't be, because it's still in theaters. And then I looked, and it had the thumbnail picture, like, oh, okay. So I watched it with my brother and my wife on Thanksgiving night. So uh, my brother loved it. He was really into it and everything. And so
That is
but
a really disturbing look picture of
yeah,
Eric Porter right
A
there.
little distracting as
uh,
well.
Stay focused, guys.
it's going to be. I'm gonna might have to cover that up. But the only the thing with me, I did enjoy it. I'm not going to say I didn't. It's just, it sort of reminded me of other movies like It Follows, and where you had to break the chain
I
of
was thinking
events.
about that too.
Yeah, like Final Destination to a point, The Ring. And I mean, it had its own spin on it, of course, but it reminded me of one of those where uh, something's going to happen if I don't do XYZ to get
But
out.
here, real quick, Craig, here's the question. I'm not saying it's like those movies, it's a little different. But is it really the curse, or is it in the person's head? That's the feeling I got watching this movie as well, you know?
Yeah, and I liked, as Jamie had said, I liked the performance of Zosie Bacon, and I same as Pete, I didn't realize who she was either until I looked that up. And then I also I while watching it, and I didn't look it up at the time, but it was I thought of where, she looked really familiar. Well, here she was in Mayor of Easttown, a limited series on HBO,
That was a good one.
which actually was filmed not far from where I live, and of which there's a lot of uh, a lot of joke shows that poke fun of the regional accents that I suppose I have, so can't tell that I have, but other people can. But anyway, I also like how Jamie says she sort of deteriorated slowly, like during in the movie. And like you said, she starts off as maybe I'm sure a lot of real social workers are, that are kind of burned out on what they're doing, and at the hospital, and trying to help people, especially when you see her other patient, the real manic strange guy who always is in the hospital. And but then as the movie goes on, it's like she's not sleeping, and she, even like her hair is like all out of whack and everything. So you do feel sympathetic for her, as it's going, and everything. But yeah, I did like it. I liked some of the jump scares, especially the one part which my brother said he recognized it from the preview. I don't think I saw some of the previews where her I guess her sister walks out to her car, and like her head like goes sideways. It took me by surprise, because I didn't see that. I
Oh yeah,
guess
you think she's
uh,
coming out to say,
to say, oh,
you
you
know what, I
forgot
was
something,
wrong.
or
What's the matter? Yeah, that's
yeah.
great. That's a great setup.
Yeah, and I didn't see that coming, so that got me. I was guilty on that one. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I liked seeing Kumar, pop up as her boss. As soon as that came on, I thought he would prescribe to her some marijuana to relax her, because she's obviously hallucinating.
And some
But
sliders.
yeah, but yeah, no, it was an enjoyable movie. I think it's and if compare some of the newer, I mean, better than Terrifier and me, Terrifier 2, that's for sure. And maybe on the same level as Barbarian. I enjoyed that one. So but yeah, it was a good exercise, and some scare with it. I'm not sure if they would. I don't. I mean, I read that the director. This is based on a short, I guess, that the director did. So I don't know if it's intended to be franchise, like a Final Destination. So we'll see. Obviously, the movie's been very successful. So
I think you put that in the books that they will do a sequel to this.
I think I read
Yeah.
something where the sequel's coming. He's working on
Oh,
it.
really?
yeah,
Well, I don't want, we've already said spoilers. The way it ended, I mean, it's set up for, in my opinion, a sequel. It just looks that's the intention. I don't know if that's gonna, it did really well, so it probably will garner one, but
No brainer. Yeah, it's a no brainer.
Yeah.
Jamie, I'm never going to be able to look at these guys the same way again. This is classic. Dan, your thoughts on the film?
Sure. So it's sort of a hybrid between what Craig and Jamie said. I don't love it, but I do really like it. It definitely pays homage to more of a recent trend, I guess, which started with the Japanese horror movies like The Ring, mid to late 90s, and movies where something is passed on. There's even a really kind of cool Japanese franchise as well called One Missed Call, where someone receives a call and some news is passed on to that person, and then they have to pick up their message, and it just basically keeps going in that way. And whoever listens to the message is cursed. So this type of
it
thing
started with chain letters before movies, I think. So
Yeah.
it goes way back.
It's not a new concept,
No.
obviously. And however, what I do find, there are a lot of elements I enjoyed. So I'm looking at the pictures. Full disclosure here, like I'm a psychologist actually, so I'm a counselor. So I work in this industry, and to watch it from that perspective, and I work at hospitals, I work crisis. So it's sort of like interesting, and a lot of it is based in kind of reality, and just seeing her from the get-go, I'm like, okay, this woman isn't stable. I mean, we know from the beginning of the movie she's not stable. She wakes up out of a nightmare and in her office, so something's off. Just to get back to what this is basically an homage to, it's recent movies that are slow burns. It definitely, like Jamie alluded to, it encompasses artistic type of there's Martin. Now I'm pointing it out.
Would you say it's kind of like I'm looking up movies that are kind of like this movie? They compare it to like Split. Would you say it's kind of like maybe a little Split, maybe?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, Split, yeah, we don't really know what is what. And
Right. Or what
There's
about
a movie
what
called
about the Babadook?
Unsane.
How about the Babadook? Maybe something like that a little bit.
What I'm going to say, so I have a couple movies I actually want to compare to.
Okay.
First, I think Jamie mentioned It Follows. I think you did too, Greg.
Yeah.
100. So It Follows was like a modern American take on what the Japanese franchises were doing, and it did it so well because it incorporated a lot of kind of John Carpenter like musical score and music. And the one thing I really want to highlight from this movie, it was a very well shot. And the use of camera angles and zooming in on people's faces, on objects, and turning the image like on its like
They flipped some stuff upside down. I think it
bring
was
it upside down. Yeah,
a room or a city or something like that. It looked like something out of Doctor Strange, where they flipped the whole thing upside down.
A couple of times, and that was sort of like representative of the woman's mental state. She's like, she's completely flipped. She's not sound of mind. But so camera angles, but also the musical score was amazing. It had a lot of It Follows in it because It Follows wasn't just your generic type of scary musical score with jump scares and jarring instruments playing. It was unnerving, and it was throughout the movie, and we couldn't really even anticipate what kind of noise we're going to hear. We're hearing bells and we're hearing knocking. You said, Jamie, you said it was industrial. I could agree with that, but it also incorporated a really cool element of no sound, no dialogue.
I was going to say that too. Quiet and then sound.
Yes. So what it did well was kind of like what Black Sabbath did well in 1970, the light and shade. So it's very quiet, and you don't know really, it's ominous, and then you hear this noise, and it throws it. It's sort of how the juxtaposition of that, it works so well. So while this wasn't a new concept in that the people have done this before in previous franchises, and It Follows was a very similar theme. It's more just It Follows was about sexual intercourse and passing on like the venereal disease to someone else. That's really what it was. And this is more, but the one thing this did, it sort of balanced well and because I work in this industry, it balanced well what you were alluding to, Rich, before about, is it mental illness, intergenerational mental illness? Is this woman sort of becoming what her mother was, mentally unstable, and or is there a curse? And the one thing I will mention that I really like, that another movie kind of did this well, a fairly recent movie called The Ritual. Because The Ritual too, it's a very it's like The Witch, or it's like The Lodge, which, Pete, you would love The Lodge. It's also a very recent movie, just like The Witch. And it had a similar theme. It's like, you don't know what's happening. Are all these people going crazy in the woods? But at the end, we have the reveal that it's really a monster, some creature type of thing. That aspect of this movie kind of threw me off, because I wanted it to be more, when it became too visual and there was actually this large, tall lady, which kind of reminded me of in Barbarian recently. It was a similar type of woman.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, it didn't lose me, but it's like it lost the scare appeal, because it's now we know it's not so much in her mind. It's something that's actually
Well, and
tangible.
it also dealt with her feelings of guilt, which you don't realize really until the end, with what she
Right.
was about her mother,
Which I found an
so with
That's
a
what it
lot
was
of
all
it,
about, was her guilt. She
with
was
guilt, and
guilt-ridden.
then also with that someone's standing right in front of you about ready to do, and it's like, well, what if I would have stopped them? What should I have done, to stop this? So
it
so
played
there's a
with
lot
that
of
theme.
themes with that.
Sorry, I mean to cut. Yeah, it played with that theme, Craig. And however, I found there's inconsistency because this woman had trauma, and a lot of these people, like the professor, who also had some trauma related to his brother who committed suicide. It was a similar type of thing, but at the end, like, I don't get it. So her ex-boyfriend now sees her kill herself, and it's passed on to him. But what was his trauma? What was his guilt? We
Well,
don't really know.
I guess that's his trauma from seeing her.
Okay, so that's how it was passed on, because seeing her, he felt guilty, he couldn't save her. But I found just the movie very bleak, very depressing.
Yep.
It was very dark and ominous, and you just felt it was just like this very doom, like you know nothing good is going to happen. However, I do want to applaud it for not giving us a happy ending. I know it set itself up for sequels, which will probably transpire, but it wasn't happy. I kind of, it flipped itself towards like the last 20 minutes. You think it's going in one direction. You think she has like closure. She's dealt with her past. She burned the house down, which was sort of, representative of her sort of moving on from the past, healing herself, going to, make amends. But then no, she's still in that nightmare. And
that's a good point, Dan, in talking about a lot of more recent horror films that are pretty successful in what they intend to do. They don't have happy endings. A lot of these movies, I think, that I've really been appreciating of late have very bleak endings. It's a fucking horror movie, right?
Because it's a horror movie, yeah.
Endings, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like life, there isn't always that happy ending, and these Hollywood is now kind of representing, and that's sort of, again, it parallels. All these movies have that similar type of this slow burn thing. They're almost all of these movies. There's very little, there are very few happy endings, so that could be predictable. But I predicted a happy ending until it flipped itself and said, no, we're not giving you that. And yeah, I enjoyed it very much, and I found the lead actress was really convincing. You don't know if she's paranoid. You don't know if she's literally slipping into this delusional, paranoid state, schizophrenic state, manic state, or if there's really something there and that's haunting her, and it's just a matter of time. So she played that very well, and I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Cool. Rich, your take.
I think you guys said everything. But back to what my thought was, you were just saying, Dan, that you don't know if it's really her or something else, if this entity's really there. I think if they do another one, they follow up with that. Don't explain if there's actually a creature, don't explain where it comes from. Don't give us a backstory. Keep it mysterious,
That's what I liked
that
about
makes
it.
it makes it more interesting, because you don't know if it's really going to be this demon that's attacking somebody, or if it's their head that's attacking themselves,
Well, that's what Hollywood doesn't do well with these prequels. They give exposition, they give the whole
Yeah,
backstory.
right.
It
And
ruins the
sometimes you need it though.
suspense
Sometimes you need it, you know.
to an
But for
extent.
this, I don't think you need it. I think it's good the way it is.
Agreed.
You know,
What was it like seeing it in the theater, Rich? Like how was the
it
audience?
was good. It was around Halloween time, so people were really into it. When you get those couple jump scares, people screamed, which you don't hear that often.
Was the theater packed?
Yeah,
More or less.
I heard more reaction from people when they were watching that movie than when they watch Halloween Ends. Because in Halloween Ends, everybody's like, "The hell is this? Who's this guy? Why do we care about him? Where's Michael?" You know. But in this movie, everybody was really interested. They got
It's
scared.
new blood in the water. Halloween Ends is like a 40-year-old franchise. It's spinning its wheels in mud. This is
I know,
fresh,
and
new.
that's
Yes, exciting.
Exactly.
Halloween ends was Christine. It was Christine. Literally, that whole movie was, which I love that movie, but we didn't need to see
Christine's
it
great
again.
for what it is, right? But it's not Halloween. It's not Michael Myers, so you know. But
Neither
yeah,
was
I enjoyed
Halloween,
it.
but neither was Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, but that was a
True.
great movie too.
So yeah, I liked it better than that. It was more enjoyable in the theater to see that movie than see Halloween Ends, being such a Halloween fan like you guys are. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a sequel. I didn't totally love it, but I think the payoffs in this movie are better than other movies that are similar to this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, movies that are like this that are psychological, like
Yeah, there's a Steven
Blair Witch,
Soderbergh movie called Unsane. It reminded me a little bit of that from
Great
2018.
movie, great movie. Yeah.
or like the Blair Witch, which was horrible. You get no payoff, right? This, you see something, you get something out of it. You know?
Jamie,
like the Blair
you're
Witch.
Oh,
killing me with these, Jamie.
I know.
I don't
I'm
know what
trying
you're
to.
talking
I
about.
know you guys are trying to listen to me, and you're trying to think. I'm trying to think, and I see a screen every second switching.
See Halford
It's like a
down
whole,
there. I'm like,
it's like
holy
a whole
cow.
rogues gallery. It's hysterical.
Is that Roger Daltrey? I can't tell. It looks like Roger Daltrey. It's
Dennis
not.
DeYoung.
Dennis
Dennis
DeYoung.
DeYoung.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, an older,
Oh my
a much
god.
older version. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, the dog.
2 thumbs up for me.
You like yeah. So I saw this twice. I watched it when it first came on. God, what was it? Paramount Plus or Peacock? I don't know, whatever the hell it was on, or HBO Max. I don't remember one of those services. I'm losing track of what these things appear on after a while, you know. And the first time I saw it, which was like a month ago, I liked it. I didn't love it. And then as we got closer to doing this, right before I went away on my recent business trip over the weekend, I said, you know what? We got to talk about this movie next week. And I'm already forgetting parts of it. So I said, let me rewatch it. So I rewatched the whole movie last weekend. And, you know, I enjoyed it more the second time around. Even though I kind of knew everything that was going to happen, I think I picked up more on things. And, you know, you guys have done a good job explaining kind of the plot and all that kind of stuff. I have a few points I want to make about specific things in the film and specifically some of the characters. So for one, I thought Sassy, whatever her name is, Bacon, she was really good in this. And one of you mentioned how convincing she was in the fact that she was feeling this terror and her descent into kind of madness, right? Because it happened kind of quickly. And one of the things I think that, and maybe Dan, you can answer this since you work in that field.
Go ahead.
For someone who is in the position that she's in, her job role, and treats and works with mental health patients, she seemed to crumble really quickly in this film, which led me to believe that maybe she was never really cut out for that.
Not at all. Not
right?
at all. She hadn't dealt with her own issues. It was very evident. She was mentally unstable from the get-go, and she had trauma. And I mean, there's no real like to become a cop, you have to pass tests and you have to be like mentally, you know, sound to be able to do your job. They don't have that. You know, anyone could be, and a lot of therapists have the most problems. So that's kind of indicative of like real life, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I thought. You know, that first woman who wasn't even really her patient, and she kills herself in front of her. And I get it; that's traumatic to anybody. But someone in the healthcare who does this for a living, you got to deal with it quick and move on because you got all these other patients you have to deal with. And she was incapable. And again, you mentioned she's already got baggage from her childhood with her mother, right? Which everybody kept bringing up to her, and she insisted that that was not an issue. So there was that. I thought her fiance was a complete asshole.
Yeah.
And
He plays an asshole in The Boys too.
Yeah, exactly.
A Train.
Yep, yep. And
You know why? Because he doesn't understand what she's going through. He doesn't believe it. He's not
it's
buying
almost
it,
like Rich, like he doesn't
He's selfish
care.
though.
Yeah.
100. I was just going to say that, Jamie. 100% selfish. There's a reason why he was in that relationship. And then as soon as things got a little dicey, he was already looking for ways out. So immediately from the beginning, I saw like absolutely no chemistry between the two of them, and you really have no back history on their relationship at all. And on top of that, obviously there's something big happened between her and her ex, the other guy who we see halfway through the film or whatever, and
Right.
he seems very happy to see her when he bumps into her at the hospital, but she obviously is not want to see him at all. So obviously there was a bad breakup there, more on her side than his, but we don't know any of that back history. They don't tell you any of that. So I was missing that. Like,
I like not knowing things in this movie for some reason.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it works a little bit, but I
You
found,
know what? I think it was implied because at the end, her revelation to him, when you think it's really her revealing herself and apologizing, it's not, because she's still in the cabin or that old house, or
Yeah.
her childhood house. But that revelation tells me that this woman didn't appreciate that he was there for her, probably, and she couldn't open up to him. So she looked for an asshole that didn't validate her feelings, and she kind of like chose the guy that wasn't there for her, and like kind of took for granted the guy that was. And that's how I took it,
yeah.
without going too deep here.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but it's one of those films where you can really get over analytical about it, because I mean, there's a lot of this going on. I like the fact that we saw, and I forget the actress's name, but she played Calamity Jane in
Yeah.
Deadwood, and she pops up
The
every now and
therapist.
then. She
Yeah.
was good. We didn't see her enough in this film, but I thought overall the acting was really good. Obviously the main actress was the best. I always like these films that take a central character and you follow their descent into complete paranoia and just total breakdown, and we actually saw that really well here. And I think Jamie mentioned too, you just see her she gets more and more disheveled as the film goes on, and the scene where she goes to her nephew's birthday party,
Oh,
to me,
wow.
is like one of the craziest scenes in the whole film.
Yeah.
The poor cat. The poor cat.
The
though.
poor cat, right? The kid opens up the gift, and there's the dead cat who she was looking for like 2 days prior, and then she just
You know
told
what it's like, Pete? It's like that moment in what was the movie? Oh my God, where she put the rabbit in the boiling water.
Oh, Fatal Attraction. Fatal
Fatal
Attraction.
Attraction. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that kind of thing, right? With that kind of moment.
Yep.
Well, Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, more like Christmas Vacation.
And you got to wonder too, you obviously can tell from that scene that her sister is not at all sympathetic to her
No.
plight and what she had to do
No.
with the mother, because she basically is like, how could you do this to us and my friends and the rest of the family and my son? And she's obviously not listening to a word that the sister's saying, even though what she's saying sounds bonkers, batshit crazy, right? There's like no sympathy there. And the scene where she's in the hospital and the sister is talking to the fiance and they're having a big fight, and the fiance, you can see the fiance is basically mouthing, I don't know what the hell to do with this either, type of thing. So I think some of the secondary characters are not all that likable, but I guess they kind of had to do that way. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it, and I liked it more on the second viewing. And I definitely think they're going to do more movies. I don't know how that'll work, because I could see a franchise like this petering out pretty quickly. It's almost like,
Yeah, it was.
I think Craig
Totally.
mentioned maybe you
the
do a
fiance
prequel.
has to carry.
Perhaps if they wouldn't have shown that it was a physical manifestation at
That's
the
what I
end.
said.
Yeah.
If you would have taken that part out, then
100%.
maybe you could franchise it or something. And but
Well,
I
maybe you
don't
could.
know.
Maybe you can go back and forth between is psychological or a physical thing. You can go back.
I think the sequel. I think the sequel would probably be a backstory. I don't know, a backstory of this monster creature type of thing. But
I don't think the
Like all the way
fiance can
back?
carry a movie.
If it's actually real, though, is it real or is it psychological? That's the question.
right. Can we give props to the smile itself? That was the creepiest thing, when the smile starts to emerge, like
Yeah.
on the therapist's face or whomever had
Well,
it.
and the first girl, I mean, she's
Oh my God.
smiling and she does a smile.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to commit suicide. So, I
But
mean,
that smile itself is so jarring,
and-
so unnerving.
and while keeping the same look. without moving her face and doing that. So that's unnerving. I mean, obviously it's a movie, but it's unnerving for anyone to see. And like Pete had said, the secondary characters. I mean, the scene where her and her fiance are having dinner, I guess, with her sister and her sister's husband. I mean, they're like, it's like she's just surrounded by these awful people, and it's like, oh my God, I would hate to be around people that act like that, that they're just the way they were.
And you have to wonder if they surrounded her with all these horrible characters, that they make you feel more sympathetic to what she's
Oh, sure.
about the whole
Right, they're unsupportive characters. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I can guarantee there'll be a sequel,
For sure.
and probably fairly quickly. I wouldn't be surprised by the beginning of 2024, if not sooner. We'll see another one. But
2030 will all be Rankin the Smile franchise. I got my 6-pack of the whole movie franchise right here. 30
in that little slimline case, right? Yep.
I ordered it at 1 o'clock. It was dropped off at 1:15.
Hopefully we won't be,
it'd be like drones then.
Yeah, hopefully we won't be frowning then when we start to review the franchise.
Oh yeah, it'll go from the Smile franchise to the Frown franchise, right? Can you imagine? Yeah, man. Too funny. So there you have it, everybody. Our take on Smile 2022 film. We got pretty much thumbs up across the board. So pretty decent film. Let us know what you think of this particular movie down in the comments below. And stay tuned next week. I know we're a little late on this one. We've been talking about it for a while. We are going to be reviewing the latest installment of the Hellraiser franchise. So that's coming up 1 week from tonight, right before Christmas. So stay tuned for that. And visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together.
All the damn
time. For Jamie Propzilla Laszlo, thank you for the smiles, my friend. Dan Mailer, Craig Kaminski, and Rich Catino. I am Pete Pardo. David Gallagher, we hope you're feeling better. Chris Sallow, we hope to see you next week. Dan Brown, we're seeing Dan Brown next week as well. So for everybody else on the Monsters Den, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Guys.
See you tomorrow morning at the Funhouse with Martin Popoff. Bye-bye.